Hello everybody, my name is Riley Thomas, and today for my speech I'm going to be talking about a short story written by Nathaniel Hawthorne called Young Goodman Brown. I have chosen to talk about this speech because I think it can be very relatable to some people. He goes through a situation in the story that completely changes him as a person. He is left questioning himself, the events that happened, the people around him, and the things around him. Before this situation, he was a very nice and very respected and well thought of man in his community. And then after this situation, he is very mean and bitter and is not really liked by anyone in the community. Before, in the earlier parts of the story, he walks out into the forest one night and sees his wife, the deacon of his church, the minister of his church, and his Sunday school teacher involved in a satanic ritual. The part I'm going to be reading today is the next morning after he witnesses the ritual. It says, "The next morning, young Goodman Brown came slowly into the street of Salem Village, staring around him like a bewildered man. Turning the corner by the meeting house, he spied the head of Faith, with pink ribbons, gazing anxiously forth and bursting into such joy at the sight of him that she skipped along the street and almost kissed her husband before the whole village. But Goodman Brown sternly looked sadly into her face and passed on without a greeting. Had Goodman Brown fallen asleep in the forest and only dreamed a wild dream of a witch meeting? Be it so if you will, but alas, it was a dream of evil omen for young Goodman Brown. A stern, sad, darkly meditative, and distressful and desperate man did he become from the night of that fearful dream. On the Sabbath day, when the congregation were singing a holy psalm, he could not listen, because an anthem of sin rushed loudly upon his ear and drowned all the blessed strain. When the minister spoke from the pulpit, with power and fervid eloquence, and with his hand open on the Bible, of the sacred truths of our religion, and of saint-like lives and triumphant deaths, and of future bliss or miserably unbearable, and did Goodman Brown turn pale, dreading lest the roof should thunder down upon the gray blasphemer and his hearers. Often he awake suddenly at midnight, he would shrink from the bosom of faith, and of morning or evening tide, when his family knelt down at prayer, he scowled and muttered to himself, and gazed sternly at his wife and turned away. And then he had lived long and was borne to his grave, a hoary corpse, followed by Faith, an aged woman, and children and grandchildren, a goody procession, besides neighbors not a few. They carved no hopeful verse upon his tombstone, for his dying hour was gloom." That was my fictional prose speech. Thank you for listening.